cruise fans. Been away for a few days, doing various other lines of creative debauchery. Been back with another chapter. I don't know what number it is, but they're all on the YouTube channel anyway. There'll be a link to it. Today we're going to learn how to deal with travel agents, and we're also going to learn about supermarket cafes and Colin's views on them. However, we'll start off with another extract from the EWC Cruise Forum, and this is from a member called On the Ropes. He's a 5-star member. Oh, sorry, Oh the Ropes. He's replying to the Portly Pirate from a couple of chapters earlier. And you'll notice I'm wearing my Australian hat because of my bad lockdown haircut. Oops. It's relevant. There'll be some Aussie connections in my in the novel later on. Anyway, Oh the Ropes 5-star member. Hi there, Portly. You've joined the migration to the new Casablanca too, I see. Can't wait for the crossing the line ceremony. There's a rumour that something rather special is planned this time. See you at the first Captain's Drinkies. Anyway, so this chapter is called Travel Agent Roulette. Fact. There is no correlation between the market position of a supermarket and the quality of the cafe incorporated therein. It's an urban jungle out there, folks, and no matter how much you pay for your sandwiches, sometimes they bite back. As a self-proclaimed connoisseur of the traditional ye olde tea shoppy, the curse of the substandard cream tea holds no fear for Colin. He won't balk at a scone with raisins in it, nor sully the quaintly British atmosphere for the onlooking American tourist by raising his voice in complaint at mismatched crockery at any of the local coffee shops. Excuse me. But there really is something truly unholy about supermarket cafes. If the devil did indeed tempt Jesus during his 40 days and nights in the desert, possibly tempted him in the desert with a dessert, Colin suspected that the temptations proffered consisted of a range of delicacies from just such a integrated grocers come general store come cafe menu. Colin was no theologian, but that would certainly explain the Son of God's iron resolve in the matter. The less saintly among us, however, fall time and time again for the allure of the toasted Emmental and mushroom panini of misery, and the iced latte direct from Satan's arsehole every time we venture into town. And we never learn our lesson. We simply never learn. Had a soft spot for the Waitrose cafe though. Good old Waitrose. And management at John Lewis hasn't paid him anything for writing that. Colin couldn't coherently explain why the Cirencester Waitrose cafe falls outside of the 9 circles of supermarket cafe hell, but would, if pushed, admit that it's probably for the same middle-class, comfy reason that he also has a soft spot for Grand Design's presenter Kevin MacLeod. If Colin had a daughter and she brought home a MacLeod-alike in his trademark flowery shirt, Colin would be pleased as punch, and once the renovation meister had advised Colin on his kitchen extension and whisked his precious little princess off to an art gallery and dinner at a gastropub, somewhere, like Inspector Morse would probably have a pint, Colin would probably go for a celebratory slab at lunch at Waitrose Cafe. Colin would imagine that at the conclusion of his daughter's first date, Kevin would stare thoughtfully into the camera. Wistfulness at the promise of things to come, mingled with regret at the passing of the momentous first encounter, and say something like, "They've broken every rule of dating during this remarkably organic process, but the amazing thing is it actually works." Anyway, so that's the reason Colin agreed to meet up with Felicity and Rupert in Waitrose. Colin's Waitrose of choice is, as we said, in Cirencester, near to where he lives. And the rolling hills and tumble-down dry stone walls of the Cotswold countryside gave way to narrow streets of Cirencester town centre as Colin travelled to his destination. Neither splendour depleted by Colin's very vocals, and he gazed idly out of the window of the single-decker stagecoach bus as it awkwardly negotiated the town's one-way system. Through streets originally designed for Roman chariots, the driver skillfully avoided collision with the closely gathered sandstone buildings, arranged higgledy-piggledy throughout the town centre. Colin, as we've said, has a soft spot for Cirencester's slightly faded grandeur, and there was a certain element of charm found in this corner of Gloucestershire which persuaded Colin to brave the perils of bus travel to get there. This was in fact the only time he took the bus anywhere. Colin could drive, of course, and had an aging but still pretty classy Saab estate at his disposal. But his driving, or more specifically his navigation, really wasn't up to the job of negotiating the fastest route to the other side of the closest large town. That fast route being the ring road. Colin owned a sat-nav, and he owned it and put it in his Saab. But he hadn't updated the software since he bought it in 1998, before the ring road was completed. So he decided to bypass the bypass, so as not to end up in Tetbury, Stroud or anywhere else that wasn't Cirencester. As it happened almost every time he'd attempted the drive before, throwing himself on the sword of public transport. His brakes and a symbol-like crash heralded the end of Colin's brief sightseeing and the opening of the bus's door, closely followed by the panicked skitter of Colin's footsteps as momentum propelled him down the coach's aisle. As usual on this trip, which he'd done loads of times, Colin, worrying that he missed his stop, had spent the last 10 minutes standing up in readiness to press the red button in a timely manner as a Waitrose bus stop approached. He'd forgotten, of course, and again, he'd skidded to a halt just behind the "Do not stand ahead of this" sign, or talk to the driver, or press the emergency button, or take the bus without the owner's consent, or use it around raid and off licence sign. And he tried to look as though he hadn't just slid 15 feet along a moving vehicle, grasping at every alarm in each seat back and stumbling over errant walking sticks and those pull-along shopping bags that old ladies tend to have. He descended the bus steps, calling out "thank you" over his shoulder. He was very formal like that. To the sweating and sniggering bus driver, his cheery tone belying his annoyance and embarrassment at his erstwhile co-passengers for making his disembarkment so hazardous. Watery, anemic autumn sunshine shone its shrive light through the strategically positioned trees, I can't say that, in the mostly empty out-of-town Waitrose car park. It was pretty pleasant as car parks go. Low Cotswold stone walls, mature shrubberies and dwarf varieties of trees interspersed the park aisles to crowbar the locale's functionality into its rural setting. Let's be fair, it was never going to win any design awards, unlike the Waitrose car park in Witney, Oxfordshire, however, whose architect had sadly died of cancer. Anyway, we digress. From around the back of a garish wine-gum green Vauxhall people carrier, Colin's brother Rupert suddenly appeared. The customary vague look lined on his face. He minced closer. Sunday Times tucked under one arm, looking uncharacteristically like Mr. Humphreys from Are You Being Served? "Badgers!" he cried, apparently hysterically, hips weaving an exotic rumba as he skirted the puddles. To get the correct mental image of this camped-up gait, one needs to replace the rolled-up newspaper with maybe some maracas, the casual jacket with a flamenco dancer's shirt. A hula-hula grass skirt would probably be going a bit too far, but you get the idea. Anyway, "Badgers! Badgers!" he repeated, more loudly in response to Colin's confusion. Before Colin could frame a suitable response to his brother's unhelpful but much more noisy explanation, Rupert pulled sharply up behind a reversing Mini, causing the septuagenarian at the wheel to bring the vehicle to a jerking halt. "Ouch, you little bastard!" Rupert hissed. This was even more confusing than the Badger's statement, as the Mini had come to a stop some feet away from Rupert. Surely this wasn't some sort of feeble attempt at an insurance claim, although Rupert did tend to take those TV adverts informing the watcher that weather's blamed as a claim very seriously. Then, gingerly flexing and examining his right ankle, Rupert looked up, relative normality thankfully returned to his face, and continued upon his way, steering Colin with him along by the elbow. "Good morning, Roo," Colin offered. "Oh, I'm sorry, Col. You must have thought I'd lost the plot. Come on." As they walked together towards the store entrance, Rupert explained they'd been having problems with badgers digging up the garden. When they arrived home after yesterday's visit to Colin's place, Rupert stepped out the car and directly into a badger's burrow that had been opened up in the middle of the drive while they'd been out. "No bones broken, but I'm walking a little bit like John Wayne," he laughed. "More like Wayne Sleep," Colin retorted as they joined Felicity, who was waiting for them. Sunday jumper and jeans casual, by the fruit and veg. 2 teapots, one large and one small, had been pushed to the centre of the too small for 3 people table. In an empty space at the nearby breakfast bar, plates and cutlery had been piled on a plastic tray, and the crumbs of lemon drizzle cake and Danish cinnamon swirl crowded into a neat pile. Colin replaced his soup bowl-sized cup back into its saucer, where it paddled ankle deep in the rapidly cooling pool of Lady Grey, the same murky infusion of which he felt compelled to wipe from the table after pouring drinks for Rupert, Felicity and himself. Why is it that teapot cafe teapots never pour properly? Maybe they're just trying to sell more tea. A small wad of saturated paper napkins now formed a slightly ineffective dam between the teapots and an untidy pile of glossy covered brochures which seemed to glare contemptuously up at Why the brochures, you ask? Probably. Well, Rupert had decided, apparently on the spur of the moment, whilst walking past Co-op Travel that day, that confirmed bachelor Colin needed some extra pep in his step, not to mention some colour in his cheeks, and had taken it upon himself to select a load of holiday brochures. As far as Colin could gather, Rupert's main aim was to send Colin off on just the sort of adventure Felicity would never allow Rupert to undertake. Now, as they sipped their way through their final cups of tea, Felicity flicked through one catalogue after another, listing the relative pros and cons of coach tours and city breaks, beach holidays and safari adventures. Felicity somehow, quite unfairly, blamed Colin for encouraging her husband's eccentricities. So when it came to getting Colin out of the country, she could be a remarkably supportive wife to Rupert. Colin let the sales pitch on the holiday tag team flow past him, occasionally grunting a "yeah" in indication he might still be paying attention. He half listened as Rupert extolled the virtues of Far Eastern odysseys, followed by Kenyan safaris and Wild West adventures. Colin wasn't keen. And to be honest, he couldn't be asked. He'd see that Dame Time TV programme Coach Trip and couldn't imagine anything worse than spending a load of weeks in close proximity to warring couples and at the mercy of the tour guide, who would select each night's victuals and arrange their sleeping arrangements. And he wasn't much more keen than safari. He'd seen Daktari, and the scene from Clarence the Lion get us into a confrontation with a big cat and put him right off. Clearly, Colin watched too much television. Then, as if by grand design, not the Kevin McLeod programme, although that would have been a bonus, the cruise company brochure rose to the surface of the pile. A mighty leviathan breaching the surface of Colin's consciousness, and as Felicity provided a swift narration of life on a cruise, Colin couldn't help but feel like a stage magician's duped stooge, railroaded into a situation. He felt unable to object to any of the principal areas of the cruise. He'd always been opposed to life at sea. I'm not sure. After seeing too many World War II films. I told you I watched too much TV, but this sounded pretty good, to be honest. You've been squirreling your cash away for years. Live a little before you die, you big misery guts. Rupert had a way with words. Every year it's, I don't like foreign food, I get bored of resort, I don't like cities. No more objections, Colin. Oh well, it was better than becoming an officer inspector.